Well, hey folks, it's your old pal, King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. I'm sure some of you probably, have all the various kinds of nerd overlap. So I'm sure some of you are aware of the, new, rather unsurprising controversies that are emerging over the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney's Lucasfilm's Disney Plus. And I mean, God, this is so old hat. It's shocking that everyone just kind of keeps falling for this all around. But it got me kind of thinking a little bit. There's a thing, that this is kind of a larger phenomenon of this whole strategy that a lot of companies, and especially in the entertainment world, have been taking for the last half decade. Or the strategy seems to kind of be like, hey guys, come check out our amazing property. We're bringing it back. You'll love it. Our fans are horrible people. Which I don't know. Like, is that really the message to be sending? When you're trying to like build an audience for your new Star Wars show out of a younger generation by pointing out how the people who like your product are all just a bunch of like terrible misogynist racists and. Then what are you telling those people that they are to join? Like, the existing fandom is something that's portrayed as being unappealing. So, aside from a small core of defiant people who will take, like, some sort of political stance about, yeah, fuck yeah, I like Rey and BB-8 and all that kind of shit, you're not really actually building a genuine fan base. And, it's easy to, manipulate box office numbers. And a lot of the thing that these movie studios in particular have been doing for the last several years is kind of, like, carefully manipulating numbers so that it looks as good as possible to their investors. But, like, when you actually, like, really look at how they're operating, and so much of it is just, like, Netflix is a good example of they're just operating in billions of dollars of deficit spending and all that, what kind of sustainable model is that? And all that kind of stuff. Like I said, you can jack up box office prices at movie theaters. Add another couple bucks. Make sure you release your movie in 3D, so it's got to have the more expensive ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly, wow, The Last Jedi made so much money, guys. It's amazing. But it's kind of a lie. I feel that's kind of the case with Avatar. Everyone kind of drools over like, oh my God, it made so much money. But, all those ticket prices, especially when Avatar first came out, were like $5 or $10 more than your average ticket price. So that kind of distorts the truth of what people, are thinking when they hear stuff like, oh, it's made the most money. Well, it's not because the most people saw it. It's just because the people who saw it were charged the most. But, the real key, though, is the merchandise sales. I mean, if you dig through the toy sales and T-shirt sales and all the other stuff for Star Wars and Star Trek, and you'll find, either there's been a general decline or that the only stable part of the market are the stuff that's actually based on the original versions of the property. But the people who have the money to collect these overly expensive modern-day toys, they're not interested in, having Rose Tico and Finn and Poe Dameron and all that kind of stuff on their shelf. They want Luke Skywalker and Vader. The one exception being Mandalorian stuff. And it's after having seen Boba Fett and the way people, I haven't even watched Obi-Wan yet. I'm just basing it as how people reacting. It might be good, it might not. I can't even judge it that way. It's just the usual suspect stuff. But what exactly is the marketing strategy here? Watch our show, our fans are racists. That doesn't seem like a good enticement to get into the thing, because it seems from the outside, if you knew absolutely nothing about it and you're programmed to just kind of take everything that you're told in kind of just a real literal manner, because obviously giant corporations are telling the truth when they're on the internet, then that's going to seem like a weird fandom to want to join. Now, wouldn't it? Now, and as I say, I think if you really were to really dig into the actual real numbers, I think you probably could easily prove that there is a genuine decline. And certainly there have been numerous channels over the years on YouTube who've been doing just that, especially in regards to tracking toy sales and all that kind of stuff. The one real exception is Dungeons and Dragons. Despite the fact that it has been messaging off the, hey, come enjoy our product, our established fans are a bunch of horrible misogynist racists. It has been growing in popularity though with the younger kids, and I think a lot of that well, you know, I guess there's two things, but I think the primary entry point on why that's able to be a thing is because playing D&D is free. Only the dungeon masters have to fucking spend money on this shit. You know, anyone can just show up and play. Also, because of the internet and PDFs, I mean, like, you know, they've clamped down a bit over the last few years, but you know, you can still do a little digging and find an awful lot of PDFs for free that you would otherwise be asked to pay for. It's a part why I still myself just believe in physical hardcover copies of books and all that kind of stuff. But you know, only like, you know, what, an average of like 1 out of 6 people who are actually into the Dungeons and Dragons hobby or role playing games in general actually has a need to buy the physical products. You know, the DMs will buy the books, they'll buy the maps, they'll buy the Dungeon Master screens. They'll probably buy the bulk of the minis that are being used in a game if you're using miniatures. Players might have their one mini. They might have their own, you know, pool of dice. And you know, and there's you know, a vigilant, responsible player for Dungeons and Dragons in particular will procure their own copy of the player's handbook. But you know, that's you know, insignificant compared to like the volume of materials that are produced purely for the dungeon masters. Well, everyone else involved in the hobby pretty much just kind of just gets to skate along scot-free. You just show up, make your character, and play for years. Never have to spend a dime beyond like the gas driving over to someone's house, or for the internet connection to be able to join a live stream and all that kind of stuff. So, unlike Star Wars, which if you're going to get into Star Wars, you got to buy the DVD, or you got to pay for the Disney Plus, or you got to go to the theater, and there's all these. It's up to you if you want to have Star Wars stuff in your life to have to buy the posters and buy the toys and buy the T-shirts. Yeah, D&D gives you much more cheaper entry level where you can be into D&D and not have any of those kinds of costs. The other thing is because unlike other kinds of entertainment, since the players are participants in what makes D&D actually come to life, you know, when it's in play, it kind of allows a sense of personalization and personal attachment, and also it makes it easier for a whole bunch of people to kind of bum rush the genre and kind of you know, take it over, just because now you have the bulk of the new players expect a certain play style and have certain expectations, and the established DMs either have to continue trying to play with a dwindling player pool of people who are also growing older and having to compete with raising their children and going to their jobs and having any other kind of life, and maybe not wanting to like alienate their loved ones because they're always dicking around with role-playing games, all that kind of stuff. You know, it's easier for them to like infest it than it is for Star Wars. It's not like, or Star Trek or any of the other things. It's because it's not like the passive audience is actually participating in those things. And so, yeah, between the fact that it's pretty much zero cost to play D&D, and that you get to personalize it so much, I feel those are the things that is why Dungeons and Dragons and a few other select tabletop games have been enjoying a rise in popularity, in spite of the fact that the marketing is telling people, "Hey, our product's great, our fans are terrible," which is just, it's a weird marketing strategy. And in other cases does not seem to be working as much as they're trying to hide it. And yet, though, like D&D's name gets ever and ever bigger. It's weird. It's kind of weird that you have like the old school renaissance, because I've heard a couple people now IRL just talking about D&D who aren't really into D&D but are aware of the fact that D&D is having some sort of quote-unquote renaissance of its own. So yeah, anyway, I guess those are just my thoughts. It's hardly a hard theory or anything provable, at least for my level of complete total lack of research I do. So, whatever. Leave comments, do all the things, and go wasp yourself.